What's going on, everyone? All right, today is Monday, March 17th, 2025, and my first day off of live streaming, and now I am doing my trade recaps. And as I mentioned, if you watched my video I put out last night, Sunday night, called The End, or Is It? I mentioned I am no longer live streaming, and I'm going to keep these videos to about 10 minutes, these trade recaps. That way you can still get all the nuggets that I give, my framework, all the good things. And, you don't have to sit through the live stream. And if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and go watch that video. But let's jump right into here. So what I'm going to do is this is my chart right here. All right. So this is my chart, my live chart. And then I'm going to show you my execution. I had a losing day today. So, hey, it happens. Whatever. But I'm going to go ahead and go into what I normally do every morning before I trade. That way you can see that. And then I will play the video because, like I said, I always record my trades anyways. I'll play the video. I'll kind of narrate and I'll go back and forth between the video and my live chart here so I can basically show you what happened. All right. So my framework is I was looking this morning. Let me move this out of the way here. Looking this morning, and as you can see, we're kind of in this little bit of accumulation here. I have a swing. This is the daily chart. I have a swing level here. I have a little bit of a swing level here. We had this daily fair value gap right here. Not huge, but it was there, okay? So I was watching it, and Friday, we closed. We poked kind of halfway through the halfway point there. Let's bring it up here a little bit, zoomed in. Poked up through here and then closed in the lower half. So basically what I was looking at today is, all right, are we going to look for maybe a sweep of Friday's high and trade back into this range and hold this daily fair value gap, hold below it? Or are we going to go ahead and make our way up? Because we have this volume imbalance up here, okay, that we haven't been up to. We have, if you go to the weekly chart, there's a weekly fair value gap here. There's another weekly fair value gap up here. And these have not been touched yet, right? And if you remember, like here, I still have some opening range gaps that we never went back up into. So there's a lot of inefficiencies, imbalances still up above. Basically in this 20,000, 150, all the way up to 500s, 600s, right? There's a lot of reason why price could make its way back up at some point. The first key, if you've been with me on my live streams, the first thing I look for is this daily fair value gap right here, right? The most recent fair value gap. Does it hold or do we invert it? Today, Monday, we ended up closing and inverting it. So this is typically what happens. If I have my bias is short, right? My overall bias has been short for a while now, right? And it stays that way until I get something like this, where we close through a fair value gap on the daily and it have an inversion. Now I have to shift my overall bias, right? So typically when that day happens, if there's a trade setup, I'll probably get a loss. Like that's a very good possibility. Because I'm looking at this. I'm remaining bearish in a sense, but I have my mind open that we could eventually, we know we're going to have to go back up at some point. So eventually we have to come back up, right? And when that day comes, I might take a loss on that day. So we had this swing high, right? We went above the swing high, inverted this daily fair value gap. So after the market's closed, right now the market's closed, right? We're in the evening. So tomorrow, I'll basically have to reanalyze, see what we did overnight, see what we did through the London session, but I'm pretty much going to be bullish. I can almost guarantee that. So from here, I'm going to drop down. I glance at the 4 hour, right? Like I want to glance at the 4 hour and see what's going on. I immediately noticed, here, let's get rid of this daily fair value gap so to keep it relatively clean for us here on these reviews. And you know what? That just made me think I'm going to make a blank slate chart I guess, template just for these reviews. That way it makes it pretty clean and I can bring it back and forth and compare. But anyways, I saw this 4 hour. We're on the 4 hour now. I saw this 4 hour fair value gap, right? We traded through it. We haven't closed above it. However, 6 a.m., this bar would close at 10 a.m. So we closed and inverted this one. But we do have this one up here as well as one right above. So right here and then one right above. Okay, so I'm looking at that as a possibility to trade up into this area. So, okay, I just want to really note where the fair value gaps are on the 4 hour. And then where did we just come from? Right? We have this bit of, this was a daily swing low right here. So there's a bit of sell side liquidity. We have this 4 hour volume imbalance right here. Okay. Oh no, it's a 4 hour, but there's also a 1 hour. So that's why I didn't mark it. But if you look here in this run up, where's the fair value gap? Didn't get one. Okay. We took these highs, but we did not get a fair value gap in any of this. So I wasn't really looking. So really my eye was focused on these here, this drop. Okay. So then I dropped down to the 1 hour. Let's take a peek there and see what we have going on. From the 1 hour, basically, I had here, right here, the swing low. So I marked this as sell side liquidity, relatively equal lows here. Here was that 1 hour fair value gap. We ended up creating this one later in the day, but I didn't mark it because I wasn't trading it, obviously. And then right here as well, if you note, we had an inversion right underneath this 1 hour. So it tapped it right here afterwards, but it reached down into there. Okay. So I marked this 1 hour. I wanted to see what price does here. Does price use it as an internal range liquidity and go up from it? Or will price come down and take this sell side liquidity? That's what I was looking at. As you can see, we dipped into it and went long from there. So let's hop to the 15 minute. So remember back here, if I go to the 15 minute, look at all this buy side liquidity here after we had this sell off, right? We had all this buy side liquidity, never reached back up into here. This was that daily volume imbalance. This was that new week opening gap right here. Lots of reasons price could come back up here. Let me go to the 1 hour chart again, because I believe it was, yes, all these relatively equal highs, even here on the 1 hour chart. So that's why I was looking that if we reached up above this swing high here and kind of above this Friday's high, if we reached above this area, I was kind of looking at as target, not a target, but a potential move up. Now, let me remind you, this Wednesday, we have FOMC, which is the Fed funds rate, where they release what the Fed interest rate is going to be. If they're going to make any changes, leave it the same, whatever. So Monday and Tuesday before Fed funds rate can be very iffy. Price action could be iffy, but we might not get a lot of movement. So I don't trade the day of FOMC because that's a 2 p.m. afternoon news event. I will trade the Monday and Tuesday, but you got to take it with a grain. Like, be very careful, maybe even size down. And tomorrow's Tuesday, so especially on Tuesday before FOMC. And we have rollover week this week. So lots of reasons why you probably, if you are going to trade, size down. And if you're not real experienced, and you might want to sit it out until Thursday or Friday. Just saying. All right, so here's the 15 minutes. So I was noting, I'm eyeing that up there, right? Okay, so let's focus in here. Here's that 1 hour down here. So here's that sell side liquidity I marked from the 1 hour. As you can see, also relatively equal lows. Good. So then I mark we have a 15 minute fair value gap here, but I left it with the 1 hour fair value gap because it's also the same. Oh, I'm sorry. We're on the 5th. I need to drop to the 15 minute. Okay, now we're on the 15 minute. So here's that sell side liquidity. As you can see, relatively equal lows. But any gaps here where I have that 1 hour fair value gap already there is what I was trying to say. I don't need to mark 15 minute fair value gaps here because I already have the one hour. I did want to mark this little one because it was just underneath the 1 hour. and I could, maybe we'll reach down into it, but it is overlapping this big inversion back here, right here. As you can see, so all this held is support. So basically, here's 8:30. We had 8:30 news. And I marked out this fair value gap to see what we would do here, if this would hold up or anything, or if we could trade below the midpoint. I marked that, and then this big candle here was our 9:30 open. All right. So if we have this 9:30 open, what am I waiting for? I'm waiting to see if we create a new fair value gap and what we do up here in this 1 hour fair value gap. Right? That's what I'm looking to see and looking to see what happens. So let's go into the video, and I'm gonna make this, fast forward, go fast here. So let's turn up the speed to 2x, because this was the open, right? So here's the open. And as you can see, we're just shooting up. Here's the 1 minute. All right, I marked out my first presented fair value gap like I normally do. I have the opening range gap right here. Okay, so we reached down, or actually after we opened, we just kind of went straight up. So I'm waiting to see, where do we go? Here we are up into that 1 hour fair value gap. Okay, I'm waiting for this area. All right. So now we get, this is that daily swing high. So we had a fair value gap. Here's that daily swing high here. Kind of noting it. So here's that, here's a fair value gap as we displaced up and through it. So I want to see this fair value gap. This right here is going to be a key fair value gap for me, because now we're above, we gapped above this daily swing level and then into that 1 hour fair value gap. So with this big fair value gap here, I want to see, is it going to hold as support, or are we going to invert it? That's kind of what I'm looking at. Obviously, if it just keeps going up, then I got to wait and see what happens there. But it's going, it reaches the midpoint of the 1 hour fair value gap, and it's still reaching up. So I'm waiting. It is now 9:42 in the morning. Now I'm looking to see, okay, do we just reach all the way to the high of that fair value gap and kind of rebalance that whole thing completely? Because we're moving pretty far up there. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit. Fast forward it. Coming down, we have a little fair value gap right here that might be forming. I'm not interested in that one. If you've watched me on my lives, this is what I talk about. This potentially could be an order block to continue up. This right here, we don't have any market structure shift, anything like that. No fair value gaps in this leg up right here to get inverted. Nothing. So I want to see what we do here. Do we invert this? Do we create a swing? Do we get through it? That's what I was waiting for. All right, so let's fast forward it. See, we have that little 1 minute fair value gap there. I was not interested in shorting that. I'm watching this as a potential order block, so I'll mark that out there. I measured this dealing range here just to see where equilibrium is, the midpoint, which is right here, in case if it did move higher and I got to trade up in this area to go down. Excuse me. But now I'm watching. We created these little swing points here. It's not great of a swing, but then right here, we still have this 1 minute fair value gap. So I need to see what we do through there. So now, and I mark here, there's a 5 minute fair value gap now, a big 5 minute that I marked. I wanted to watch that too to see what price does inside that. Now we did trade through it. We created this fair value gap and inverted this one now. This is a potential shorting area for me. But now I'm looking, though, at this as an order block. Why? Because we did reach down. We created these little swings. We reached back up here. Didn't quite get to that 1 minute, but then we're displacing down. So this could be a potential order block. And I'm really looking at it as, if we do come back up here, we could overshoot this area, because this is kind of a pretty big gap down. We could overshoot this area and tap this. And I was looking to potentially short there, but I didn't. And you'll see why here in just a second. Reach down into this fair value gap. We haven't touched the first presented. Now, as we're making our way back up here, I was thinking about shorting, but I said, no, Let me wait because I think it's going to overshoot and hit this order block here. And then I see right here, as it's coming back up, I see it potentially gapping. Now remember, I have a reason price could go higher. So I'm kind of neutral on my trade, whether I want to go short or long. If this gets reclaimed and we leave these fair value gaps here, I'm thinking to myself, we might be going long. But also this could be an order block here. So let's see what happens there. So at the moment, I'm kind of conflicted a little bit. Like I can see this going either way. So at that point, I have to do nothing. So as you can see, and because we had these fair value gaps coming right back up, I was like, I can't short this yet. I can't short this right now. I just can't. I can't. So now we're reaching up into this order block, and I'm like, ooh, there it is pushing hard. Like this is where I wanted to short right here, right where it tapped right there. But I'm like, well, but we're when you have the 1 minute or smaller time frame, creating fair value gaps, inverting them, reclaiming them, creating them, inverting them over and over, you potentially could be in high resistance liquidity conditions, especially if there's not a 15-minute fair value gap yet. Those are some key indicators that you could be in high resistance liquidity conditions. So I'm thinking about that right now, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know. This looks like we could be setting up for some high resistance, but it might be okay. So let's see. But then I'm like, wow, I don't like this. I don't like it. We set that up. So now what I'm waiting for is to see if this area holds. And what do we do when we come back here? Right in this area. Does this hold as support when we go up? Or does this order block hold and we come back down through this? If we come back down through this, I may be looking to short through these lows or at least this opening range gap high here. So what do? We come back. We hit that 10 o'clock. It's 9:56. So I'm kind of like, we're getting close to 10 o'clock. Let me wait. So here we go. It's 9. If you look at the bottom right, you can see there 9:59, almost 10 o'clock. And then boom, we hit 10 o'clock. Well, this order block's still holding there. Now I'm kind of like, I need to see what happens in between any of these. Now, here we go. We're looking like we're displacing lower. All right, we might get a fair value gap here with all this inverted. And if that happens, I'm looking to short this and take it either to the first presented fair value gap, the high of the opening range gap, or through these lows, depending on where my entry is. So we get it. Let me back up. We get the fair value gap. I actually couldn't place it. Look at this. Look where price was. Right here. And look when I click the button to sell. Price says 761. And look at my fill. I got a terrible fill. And that's the risk of market orders. But the reason why I do market orders is because I have 20 accounts following. With multiple micros. So if I do a limit, there's a chance I could get them all messed up, skipped, and all kinds of stuff. And I don't want to deal with that. So look at that. Price was up here. I got filled at 754. So like almost 10 points. Pretty much like a 10-point slippage there. And this is my live account. This right here is my leader. Right? So it's my personal live account. Not a prop firm. None of that. My personal live account. This is my leader. So I got 10 points of slippage in live market conditions here. So here we go. I'm in. It's looking good. Stop right above these highs here. Shouldn't reach back. If this works, it should not come back above here. As you can see, I was initially aiming here, these lows, the midpoint of the opening range gap. But then I was looking at it. I was like, I'm in at 754. This is very likely to hit this first presented fair value gap. If anything, get to the high of that opening range gap. So let me go ahead and 54 points is fine. I'm just going to go ahead and move my target up. As you can see, I was up 115 ticks here at one point. Took this low, looking good. Kind of hesitating. Like I'm really expecting it to just displace and keep going. It was looking pretty good. All right, this video is 20 minutes long now. I'm telling y'all, I promise I'll cut these videos down to 10 to 15 minutes. This is the first one, so here we go. Now it's kind of pulling back up, and I'm like, Well, it's okay. I'm expecting price could trade back up into here, but it should not come up here and tap my stop as long as this trade is going to work the way I think it is. So just fine, waiting for it, kind of pulls back down. At this point, I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, it's showing potential high resistance here. It's not displacing. It should be displacing. So let me move my target up here a little bit. Still looking, still waiting. Now, watch this as it pulls up. Pull my P&L over here real quick so we can see. Pulls up, rebalances this 1 minute gap. Again, it should not take these highs if it's going to work. So fast forward a little bit. Look how it comes right up here to the midpoint of that inversion. And I'm like, whoo, that's close. So now here we go. It looks like now I'm waiting. This is the displacement. This is when we should drop. Right here. Might get a little fair value gap. I'm like, here we go. It's go time. And we failed to displace. I pull down my stop because now we have this wick right here that reaches up. We should not go back above the midpoint of this wick right here. So I move my stop down to protect because at this point I'm like, all right, we're showing some high resistance conditions at the moment. Leave my stop right up there. We should not come back up here if it's going to work. But we failed to displace here. So I was like, I really could have moved it to break even, but I wasn't ready yet. But, you know, I did reduce my loss a little bit here. And right here. I don't remember if it comes back down one more time or not. I don't think it does. Because I had a couple opportunities where I could have moved to break even, but I didn't. I at least reduced my stop. Yeah, I didn't move to break even. Nailed me there. Eventually, this does reach back up to this order block one more time. I don't think I got it that far. Yeah, see, it reached up here again, and eventually it did trade back down and hit that target in the 11 o'clock hour. So, high resistance liquidity conditions for this morning. I don't think I got it that far. Yeah, I cut the video. So, high resistance liquidity conditions this morning. It got me. It's okay. It happens. Here we go. Let's jump to the 1 minute chart here from this morning real quick just to show you what happened. If you were trading, I'm sure you know. Here's my entry. I got out, came, and there's where it blew through my target here. It happens. That's why we have money management and discipline. All right, so that's it. That was my morning, but like I said, I'm having a wonderful month. I'm up about almost 40 grand right now. That's because I've taken out almost $9,000 in payouts. So $8,928 in payouts, and pretty good. Before that loss, I was at a 75% win rate. And like I said, I average around 60%, so I know some losses are going to happen. You just got to stick with it. That's all it is. So, all right, that's a wrap. I'll see y'all in the next trade recap. If I get one tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow. As always, trade well, everybody. Take care.